Lightning split the sky, jagged streaks slashing across the blood-red clouds above the rocky cliffs. Ethan Voss sprinted over the uneven ground, his boots sliding on loose gravel. The alarm sirens of the research outpost screamed in his ears, but he didn't care. Something was crying up ahead, a sound sharp, high-pitched, and filled with fear. Please, someone. The sound trembled, almost human. Ethan's heart hammered. He had been warned. Everyone had been warned. The dragon baby was volatile, dangerous, a living weapon in a fragile shell. No one touched it. No one. But the cry pulled him forward, faster than logic or caution. The cliffside opened to a small ravine, jagged rocks forming a cage around the source. There it was, a tiny creature barely bigger than a toddler, scales shimmering with faint bioluminescent patterns, wings folded tight against its body. Its eyes, deep and intelligent, fixed on Ethan. Easy, easy, Ethan whispered, raising his hands. His pulse raced. The creature quivered, letting out another harmonic chirp that made the hair on his arms stand on end. There was something almost knowing in those eyes. Something that tugged at his humanity. A warning pulse from a hovering drone lit the air. Do not touch it, a scientist shouted from the cliff above. It's unstable. Stand back. The creature hissed defensively, curling its tiny tail, and sparks of blue energy flickered along its scales. Ethan froze for a heartbeat. One wrong move and it could fry him, or worse. The wind howled, whipping dust and jagged rocks into the air. Then, almost on instinct, he stepped closer. He bent low, speaking softly, matching the rhythm of its chirps. The creature paused, tilting its head as if listening. Come on, Ethan said. I'm not here to hurt you. The drone hovered closer, scanning. Its red light glared across the creature's skin, making it flare. Ethan made a snap decision. One swift motion and he scooped the baby into his arms. Sparks of energy shot out, knocking the drone sideways with a metallic screech. The tiny dragon clung to him, trembling but silent now, as if it trusted him, or at least recognized him as different. Got you, he whispered, heart hammering. For a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. The storm above, the alarms, the hovering drones, all paused. Then a low rumble shook the ground. Ethan stumbled back, trying to keep his balance on the loose rocks. From the shadows, something large stirred. A dark shape moved between the cliffs, eyes glowing faintly red. The creature in his arms whimpered, shifting against him. Ethan's mind raced. The warnings weren't exaggerations. The dragons, they weren't just dangerous. They were hunters, predators, and they knew where their baby was. Stay calm, he muttered. His hand went to the strap of his utility belt. Small tools, gadgets, anything he could use. He triggered a flare, hoping to distract the approaching predator. The glow lit the cliffside, painting the shadows in violent red and orange. The creature pressed against him, wings twitching but didn't panic. It seemed aware. Ethan took a deep breath. Every step mattered. Every choice had consequences. One wrong move and both he and the hatchling would be lost. His boots slipped on loose gravel as he pivoted, scanning the narrow gorge for a safe path down. The drone's alarms blared again, more frantic this time. Ethan clenched his jaw. I don't care what you think, he yelled toward the outpost. I'm not leaving it. The hatchling chirped in response, a sound almost melodic, soothing in its tiny way. For a heartbeat, the chaos seemed to fade. He had a small victory. The creature trusted him enough to be still. Then the cliff trembled. Rocks clattered down the ravine, dust rising in thick clouds. The shadow moved faster, faster than Ethan expected, closing the distance with unnatural speed. The hatchling hissed sharply, its glow brightening like a warning. Ethan realized the storm wasn't the only danger. The cliffside wasn't just unstable, it was a trap. Something, or someone, was hunting them both. He tightened his grip, scanning desperately. His mind raced for a plan, for anything to outsmart the predator. We're not done yet, he whispered to the hatchling, feeling the weight of the tiny life in his arms. Its pulse seemed to match his own, fast and urgent. He had to get them both down the gorge, away from the shadows, away from the drones, away from everything that wanted to end them. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck the cliff beside them, splitting rock and dirt with a deafening roar. Dust and sparks filled the air. The ground beneath Ethan's boots cracked. He stumbled, almost losing the hatchling, but caught himself just in time. The glow from its scales lit his face, and for a moment he saw not fear but something else, something like hope. Then came the sound, a low, deep rumble vibrating through the cliffside and into his bones. Something massive was moving, something that had been waiting. Ethan froze, every muscle tense. The hatchling stiffened in his arms, wings flaring slightly, shimmering with energy that seemed alive. He realized with a jolt of fear and awe that this was only the beginning. Whatever was coming wasn't just a threat, it was a test. And for the first time, he understood that choosing to protect this creature had set events in motion that no one could have predicted. A shadow blotted the sky above, massive and winged, moving faster than thought. Ethan's breath caught. The hatchling chirped sharply, pressing against him. The wind howled, dust stung his eyes, and the ground beneath them rumbled as the shadow descended. Ethan's grip tightened. "Hold on," he whispered. And in that instant, the cliffside shattered in a shower of rocks, the predator closing in. The hatchling's eyes glowed brighter than ever, and a pulse of energy shot outward. The world shook. And then, everything went quiet. Except the shadow overhead. Ethan barely had time to catch his breath before the cliffside trembled again. Dust and rock rained down as the massive shadow swooped closer, wings like jagged sails blotting out the red sky. He tightened his grip on the hatchling, feeling the tiny heartbeat thrumming against his chest. Every instinct screamed that the creature was both precious and perilous, and that one wrong step could end them both. The dragon baby let out a low, urgent chirp, a warning that made Ethan's stomach twist. The glow along its scales pulsed rhythmically, almost as if it were scanning the air around them. He realized then that it wasn't just scared, it was communicating, trying to tell him something he didn't yet understand. From the cliffs above, drones hovered, their warning lights cutting through the smoky haze. "Ethan, you have to get down now. The predator is unstable, retreat." A voice yelled through the communicator, frantic and panicked. But retreating wasn't an option. Not while the baby's life, and perhaps something far bigger, depended on him. He scanned the narrow gorge ahead. A steep path led down toward the riverbed below, jagged rocks jutting out like teeth. One misstep and they would fall, another and the shadow would catch them. Ethan calculated quickly, stepping lightly, his boots kicking loose gravel as he descended. The hatchling shifted in his arms, wings brushing his chest. The pulsing light along its scales seemed to guide him, almost like a beacon. Then a roar split the air, deafening and filled with fury. The predator swooped lower, its massive form carving wind currents that threw Ethan off balance. Rocks tumbled past him and a jagged boulder grazed his shoulder. Pain shot through him, but he gritted his teeth, adjusting his hold. The hatchling chirped sharply, glowing brighter in response, as if daring the predator to strike. Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't outrun it forever. There was no way the outpost drones could fight it off alone. He had to think, and fast. His eyes caught a narrow crevice between two cliffs, just wide enough for him to slip through, too tight for the predator to follow. It was a chance. A risk. But one he had to take. "Hold on," he whispered to the hatchling. He ducked into the crevice, feeling rocks scrape his shoulders. The predator roared behind him, massive wings flaring, and for a terrifying moment Ethan thought it would crush him. But the creature couldn't fit. Its scream echoed as it thrashed outside, shaking loose stones into the gorge. The micro-victory gave Ethan a fleeting sense of relief, but it was short-lived. A low rumble shook the ground beneath him, and the hatchling twitched in his arms, glowing with a sharp pulse that made the rocks vibrate. Ethan realized the creature wasn't just responding to the predator, it was reacting to the environment itself. Something about its energy interacted with the planet. He stumbled over a jagged stone, almost dropping the hatchling, but managed to steady himself. The baby let out a soft trill, nuzzling his chest. Ethan felt a small warmth of reassurance, a tiny payoff in the middle of chaos. It was proof that even in this storm there was connection. That human courage and compassion could matter. But the danger wasn't over. From the shadows of the gorge, the predator's smaller kin emerged. Sleeker, faster, with red eyes that gleamed in the dust and lightning. They circled, testing the path, sniffing the air, calculating the right moment to strike. Ethan realized that escaping the main predator wasn't enough. The hatchling had drawn the attention of an entire pack. Ethan's mind worked frantically. Tools from his belt, flare canisters, small energy disruptors, grappling hooks, could give him a temporary edge. He tossed a flare into the gorge. It exploded in a burst of blinding light. The small predators recoiled, momentarily disoriented. Ethan seized the chance to move, stepping over jagged stones, every step carefully measured. The hatchling chirped again, glowing in harmony with the flare's light. The gorge narrowed further, and a small ledge appeared above a rushing river. Ethan's chest burned from exertion. Sweat stung his eyes, but he focused. The baby's glow intensified as if urging him forward. Using a grappling hook, he swung to the ledge, landing hard, scraping his knees. The hatchling clung tightly, its tiny claws pressing into his jacket. From the shadows, the main predator howled, a deep, terrifying sound that shook Ethan's bones. It tested the edge of the cliff, but gravity and the crevice had slowed it. For a brief moment, Ethan felt triumph. He had survived the first chase. He had outsmarted the predator using only his wits and instinct. Then came the unexpected. The hatchling's glow pulsed faster, the runes along its scales flickering in rapid sequences. Ethan froze, feeling the vibration through his arms. The creature wasn't just scared, it was signaling something. A warning? Or a guide? He didn't know. But the urgency was clear. Danger was not finished with them. He glanced around the ledge. The river below roared, jagged rocks hidden beneath the surface. The gorge behind him was littered with predators. The only path forward was uncertain, treacherous, and impossible to navigate without risking both their lives. The hatchling chirped again, louder this time, a harmonic tone that reverberated in Ethan's chest. Its eyes locked on him, bright and insistent. He realized it was asking him to trust it, to follow wherever it would lead. That small moment of understanding gave him a jolt of hope, even in the chaos. A sudden flash of lightning struck the river below, sending water spraying into the air. Ethan shielded the hatchling, blinking through the spray. Then, without warning, a part of the cliff above crumbled, sending a cascade of rocks tumbling toward them. He froze, calculating. There wasn't enough time to dodge. The hatchling let out a sharp trill, and Ethan instinctively pivoted. The rocks hit the ledge just inches away, throwing him off balance. He stumbled but didn't fall, the hatchling safe in his arms. For a heartbeat there was silence. Then a low rumble echoed again, different this time, slower, heavier. Something was coming. Ethan's grip tightened. He whispered, "We can't stop now. We just can't." The hatchling chirped back, its glow pulsing faster, and together they stared down the gorge. The next move would decide everything. The rumble grew louder, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Ethan's breath caught. The river churned violently, and shadows moved in ways that didn't belong. The predator wasn't alone. Something bigger was coming, something that made even the hatchling shiver. And then, from the mist and shadows, a massive, unknown shape emerged, its size dwarfing even the largest predators Ethan had seen. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural intelligence. The hatchling stiffened in his arms. Ethan swallowed hard, heart hammering. Whatever this was, it wasn't just hunting. It was waiting for them. The massive shape hovered above the river, its wings folding like steel sails. Ethan's heart hammered as he felt the weight of its presence pressing down, the air vibrating with a low, menacing hum. The hatchling in his arms shivered, glowing brighter than ever, scales flickering in complex, pulsing patterns. Something about this creature, it wasn't just a predator. It was intelligent, calculating, watching. Ethan backed toward the edge of the ledge, gripping the hatchling tighter. The river below churned violently, lightning reflecting off the swirling water. "All right, think," he muttered. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, but the shadow above blocked every path. There was no escape, only a choice, act or be crushed. Then the hatchling chirped, a rhythmic, melodic tone that seemed almost like a signal. Ethan froze. It was communicating. He had seen hints before, the pulsing glow, the harmonic calls, but this was different. Deliberate. Urgent. He studied the glowing runes along its scales, realizing they weren't random. They were symbols, patterns of movement and meaning, something like a map or a key. The massive shape tilted its head, wings spreading wider, wingspans larger than any human-built craft Ethan had ever seen. Its eyes glowed, intelligent, measuring him, calculating his intentions. Ethan swallowed hard. The hatchling pulsed, and in that instant he understood. The creature wanted him to do something risky. Something that could save them both. He adjusted his hold, speaking softly. "All right, little one. Lead the way." The hatchling chirped sharply in response, almost excitedly, and crawled toward the edge of the ledge, its glow flaring. Ethan followed carefully, heart racing, scanning the river and the cliffs. Below, the currents swirled, but he noticed a narrow tunnel carved into the rock, almost invisible, hidden beneath the spray. The hatchling seemed to want him to go there. Ethan hesitated. The tunnel was barely wide enough for him, and the river raged just beyond. But the hatchling chirped again, more urgently, and the massive shape above roared, a deep, resonating sound that shook the cliffs. Time was running out. With a sharp inhale, he stepped forward, carefully lowering himself toward the tunnel entrance. The hatchling led the way, diving through the narrow opening with Ethan close behind. Water sprayed over him, rocks scraping his arms, but he pressed on, trusting the creature's instincts. The river's roar faded as the tunnel twisted inward, dark but sheltered. Ethan gasped, finally able to breathe for a moment, heart still racing. The hatchling chirped happily, curling in his arms as if congratulating him. Then the walls of the tunnel shimmered. Ethan blinked. Faint holographic patterns flickered across the stone, ancient symbols, glowing softly. The hatchling pressed against the wall, and suddenly the runes pulsed in response, casting a soft light that revealed a chamber beyond. Ethan stepped inside, eyes widening. The cavern was massive, carved by hands or claws long gone, filled with alien machinery that hummed with energy. A holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the room. Ethan froze. The image showed beings, tall, slender, with multiple limbs and glowing eyes. They moved with precision, their hands tracing patterns in the air, crafting energy, creating life. And at the center, a small dragon-like creature pulsed with light, the hatchling. Ethan's jaw dropped. The baby wasn't a natural creature. It was engineered, crafted by an alien civilization long extinct, or hidden. Its scales, its glow, its intelligence, it was all by design. And somehow it had chosen him. Engineered, guardian, Ethan whispered, voice trembling. He realized the pulsing patterns along its scales weren't random, they were a form of communication, a language. The hatchling had been trying to teach him, guide him all along. And now here the truth was undeniable. This tiny creature was not just alive. It had a purpose. The holographic projection shifted, displaying maps of the galaxy, star systems Ethan had never seen. One map glowed brighter, and the hatchling chirped insistently. Ethan leaned closer. The light reflected in his eyes. The baby was showing him a path, somewhere far away, somewhere important. The stakes became clear. If he followed this path, he could unlock secrets beyond human comprehension. If he failed, the predator outside would surely kill them both. A sudden vibration shook the floor. Ethan spun around. The massive predator had followed them, somehow sensing the hatchling's energy. Its roar echoed through the cavern, a wave of force that rattled the machinery. The hatchling's glow intensified, forming a protective pulse that rippled through the chamber. Rocks lifted slightly, energy crackling in the air. Ethan realized with a shock, the baby wasn't just intelligent, it could manipulate energy, defend itself, maybe even manipulate the predator. Ethan's mind raced. He could try to fight, but the predator was too massive. He could flee, but the tunnel was too narrow for both to escape. Then he remembered the hatchling's pulse patterns, the runes. Maybe he could use them, mimic them, coordinate with the baby to outsmart the predator. He held the hatchling close and whispered, "All right, little one. Let's show them what humans and dragons together can do." The baby chirped sharply, glowing in rapid sequences, and Ethan realized it was a signal, a rhythm he could match. He tapped his hands, stomped his feet, mirrored the glowing pulses. The chamber vibrated, responding, energy hum building, the predator growling outside in confusion. For a moment they were in sync, the human and the engineered guardian. The predator paused, unsure, its red eyes flicking between them. Ethan's heart pounded, sweat stinging his eyes. This was their chance. A clever decision, using wit, courage, and empathy, could turn the impossible odds in their favor. And just as he prepared to move forward, the hatchling emitted a sharp, blinding pulse. The holographic map flashed, showing not just the local system, but a distant sector glowing ominously. Ethan's chest tightened. The predator outside was only the beginning. Something even larger was waiting. Something that would test every ounce of human courage, intelligence, and determination. Ethan tightened his grip on the hatchling, eyes fixed on the glowing map. "We're not done yet," he whispered. And in that instant, a metallic screech echoed from the far end of the chamber. A new presence, heavier, faster, and far more dangerous than the predators outside, was entering. The hatchling pulsed violently, wings flaring. Ethan's stomach clenched. Whatever came next would decide everything. The metallic screech echoed through the cavern, reverberating against the walls. Ethan's eyes snapped toward the far end of the chamber. Something massive moved in the shadows, faster than he could track. Its outline shimmered with energy, wings slicing the air, claws scraping stone. The predator from outside had been only a warning. The real threat was here, and it was bigger, smarter, and hungrier. Ethan tightened his grip on the hatchling. Its glow flared, pulsing violently as if urging him to move, to act. He could feel its heartbeat thrumming against his chest, fast and insistent. The tiny creature had led him here, taught him, and now he had to trust it completely. For a moment, fear gripped him, raw and paralyzing. Then he remembered everything that had brought them here: the chase, the crevice, the river, the pulses of light that guided him. He wasn't just a human running from danger. He was the hatchling's ally, its protector, and perhaps the only being capable of facing this threat. The creature emerged fully into the chamber. It was enormous, wings spanning twice the length of the cavern, claws sparking against the stone floor. Its eyes glowed with predatory intelligence, scanning Ethan and the hatchling. A low, resonant roar vibrated through the air, and the hatchling responded with a sharp trill, scales flashing in complex sequences. Ethan realized the creature wasn't mindless. It was testing them, gauging their connection, measuring their strength. He had no weapons capable of confronting it directly. No outpost drones, no energy disruptors, nothing but his mind, his reflexes, and the small dragon in his arms. The only way forward was to think faster than instinct, to outwit a being designed for hunting. The hatchling pulsed again, and Ethan noticed the patterns. The runes along its scales flashed in sequences almost like a code. He had been learning the rhythm, the language. Now he acted. Tapping into the pattern, he mirrored it with his movements, stomping, shifting his weight, echoing the hatchling's pulses. Energy vibrated through the chamber, and the massive creature faltered for a fraction of a second, uncertainty flashing in its glowing eyes. Ethan's heart hammered. That was enough. Using the hatchling as a guide, he moved toward a control panel embedded in the cavern wall, alien machinery humming with latent energy. If he could activate it, perhaps he could turn the environment itself against the predator. He pressed buttons, twisted levers, following the hatchling's signals. The chamber responded, lights flaring, the floor trembling with energy. The predator lunged, wings flaring, claws reaching. Ethan dove to the side, feeling the wind tear at his jacket. The hatchling's glow exploded in his arms, sending a pulse through the chamber. The predator froze, suspended for a heartbeat in the air as if caught in an invisible field. Ethan scrambled to the central console, slamming his hands onto the controls. Machines whirred to life, energy streaming along conduits embedded in the walls, flowing like rivers of light. The cavern shook violently. Rocks tumbled, dust filled the air, and the predator roared in frustration, trapped for now by the energy fields the hatchling had guided him to activate. Ethan panted, his arms shaking, sweat stinging his eyes. The hatchling chirped sharply, curling closer to him. He felt a small sense of triumph. One step, one clever action, and they had survived another deadly moment. But the victory was temporary. The predator wasn't defeated. Its glowing eyes narrowed, scanning for weaknesses. It began to shift, adapting to the energy fields, probing for a way through. Ethan realized the baby's abilities alone wouldn't hold it indefinitely. He needed a plan, and he needed to act fast. Then the hatchling did something unexpected. It climbed onto the console, scales glowing brighter than ever, touching the alien controls with tiny claws. Energy pulses raced along the machinery, resonating in a harmonic pattern that Ethan recognized from the baby's earlier signals. The room trembled, light flaring in rhythmic waves. The predator froze again, wings thrashing, caught in a field it couldn't understand. Ethan followed the baby's lead, moving with the rhythm, amplifying the pulses with his own actions, stomping, twisting levers, flipping switches. Together, human and hatchling created a force that was more than brute strength. It was synergy, intelligence combined with courage and instinct. The predator howled, unable to comprehend the bond that gave Ethan the edge. And then, with a final pulse, the predator was thrown backward, crashing against the cavern wall. Dust and sparks filled the air. Silence followed, broken only by the river's distant roar and the heavy thrum of the hatchling's heartbeat. Ethan sank to his knees, chest heaving, gripping the small dragon tightly. They had survived. Against impossible odds, clever thinking, bravery, and trust had triumphed. For a moment, victory seemed complete. The hatchling's glow softened, nestling into Ethan's arms. He whispered, "We did it. We survived." But then a new vibration shook the floor, not the predator, not the chamber. Something else, far more massive, moved somewhere above. Ethan's stomach twisted. He realized the battle wasn't over. The predator was only the beginning. The glowing map from earlier, the holographic projection, flared in his mind. That distant sector, pulsing ominously, was still out there. Whatever force or civilization awaited them, it was bigger, smarter, and far more dangerous than anything they had faced so far. Ethan tightened his grip on the hatchling, eyes scanning the cavern for a path forward. The baby pulsed rapidly, its scales reflecting light onto the walls as if reassuring him. "Whatever comes next," he whispered, voice steady despite the fear gnawing in his gut, "we'll face it together." Outside the chamber, the shadows shifted again. A faint vibration in the air hinted at movement, something even larger than the predator, waiting in the dark, patient and aware. Ethan's chest tightened, but he didn't falter. He had survived impossible odds before, and he would survive this. He had the hatchling, intelligence, courage, and determination. Humanity mattered here. Humans could rise to challenges even the universe seemed to underestimate. The hatchling chirped sharply, glowing in rapid, urgent pulses. Ethan's eyes narrowed. That glow was a guide, a signal that the next stage of the adventure was already beginning. He could feel it, a pulse through the air, through his chest. The predator had been only a test, a warning. Something much larger was coming, something that could shape not just their lives but the fate of worlds. Ethan rose to his feet, determination hardening in every line of his body. "Then let's see what the universe has for us," he said. The hatchling chirped, wings flaring slightly, ready to follow. Together, human and engineered guardian prepared to step into a future of danger, mystery, and impossible challenges. Above the cavern, faint shadows moved in rhythm with the baby's glowing pulses, signaling the next threat. And Ethan knew one thing for certain. Survival would demand everything human courage, intelligence, and heart could offer. The cavern was quiet now, save for the soft hum of alien machinery and the rhythmic pulse of the hatchling in Ethan's arms. Dust hung thick in the air, and the faint glow of the baby's scales painted long, wavering shadows across the walls. Ethan sank to his knees, chest heaving, the adrenaline still coursing through him. They had survived the predator, yes, but the larger danger, whatever had been hinted at by the holographic map, still waited somewhere out there. The hatchling chirped softly, curling against his chest, eyes bright and intelligent. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he ran them along the creature's back. "You're more than I imagined," he whispered, voice hoarse. "Not just a creature, you're a guardian. A guide. And somehow we're connected." He studied the patterns along its scales, the runes that had pulsed and guided him, revealing intelligence far beyond normal life. For the first time, Ethan understood that the hatchling had been leading him, testing him, teaching him. It wasn't just a test of courage, it was a test of humanity itself. The holographic projection flickered to life again, dim but clear. The alien star map shone, highlighting a distant sector with a soft pulsing glow. Ethan leaned closer. The hatchling chirped sharply, tail flicking as if urging him to pay attention. He traced the glowing path with his fingers, realizing the implications. The map wasn't just directions, it was a warning. Something ancient, something powerful was waiting there. Ethan swallowed hard. The predator outside had been dangerous, yes, but it was only a glimpse of what lay ahead. He felt the weight of responsibility settle over him like a stone. Protecting the hatchling wasn't just about survival, it was about understanding, about preparing for the trials the universe had set before them. Humans had been underestimated, dismissed, left out of galactic schemes for centuries. But here now, his courage, his intelligence, and his empathy were essential. The hatchling pulsed again, and this time Ethan realized the patterns formed a sort of communication, almost like a sentence. He studied it, mimicking the rhythm with his hands, stomping softly on the cavern floor. Energy shimmered around them, responding to the bond they shared. For a moment, the predator's threat, the crumbling cliffs, the roaring river, all of it faded. There was only connection, trust, and purpose. Ethan rose to his feet, holding the hatchling firmly but gently. The small creature chirped happily, its wings fluttering, almost playful. He smiled, feeling a spark of hope. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unforgiving, but if a single human could face predators, storms, and unknown alien intelligence with courage and cleverness, maybe there was a chance. He moved toward the cavern exit, carefully navigating loose rocks. The river's roar echoed below, lightning flashing faintly across the jagged cliffs outside. Ethan glanced back once at the holographic map, committing the glowing patterns to memory. He knew he would need every ounce of planning, every skill, and every instinct to survive what awaited in that distant sector. As they emerged from the cavern, dawn began to break over the jagged horizon. The red sky softened to a pale gold, light reflecting off scattered pools of water and the jagged stones. The predator was gone, at least for now, retreating into the shadows it had come from. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. The battle had been won, but the war, the larger challenge, was still ahead. He glanced at the hatchling, who chirped softly and nudged his chest. Its scales glimmered in the morning light, showing faint runes that seemed almost like a smile. Ethan laughed quietly, the tension breaking for a brief moment. "All right," he said. "We survived today. That's step 1. Step 2 is out there." He pointed toward the glowing horizon where the distant sector waited. For the first time, Ethan allowed himself to feel something beyond fear or survival. Pride. Hope. Connection. The tiny dragon had shown him that courage, intelligence, and empathy weren't abstract. They could change outcomes, even in a universe that seemed impossible. Humanity had a chance here if people were willing to rise, adapt, and take risks when it mattered most. The hatchling chirped again, louder this time, wings flaring slightly. Ethan realized it was more than a signal. It was excitement, anticipation. The baby had chosen him for a reason, and together they had survived the first test. He could sense that the universe had more trials ahead, bigger mysteries waiting in the sector the map had highlighted. A sudden flash caught Ethan's eye, a faint shimmer along the horizon. Something moved there, fast, larger than anything he had faced before. His chest tightened. The predator had been only the beginning. Whatever was out there, it would demand everything humanity could offer. Courage, quick thinking, compassion, and relentless determination. He tightened his grip on the hatchling and whispered, "Whatever comes next, we face it together. No turning back." The hatchling chirped, wings brushing his shoulders. The bond was clear. Together they were more than just human and creature. They were partners, capable of facing threats far beyond what anyone else could survive. Ethan's eyes scanned the sky, the horizon, the path ahead. The glowing sector awaited, full of danger, mystery, and secrets that could shift the balance of the galaxy. And he knew one truth above all: humanity mattered. Humans had courage where others hesitated, intelligence where others blindly followed, and empathy where others only calculated. He would rise to every challenge because that was what humans did. They endured, they adapted, and they shined when the universe expected them to fail. The hatchling chirped once more, a small melodic note that echoed in the quiet morning. Ethan smiled, feeling the pulse of life, energy, and potential thrumming between them. The predator was gone, the immediate danger past, but the adventure, this was only the beginning. A larger mystery waited, far beyond the cliffs, beyond the river, and deep into the unknown sector glowing on the holographic map. Ethan stepped forward, boots crunching on loose gravel, hatchling secure in his arms. The wind picked up, brushing through his hair, carrying the scent of alien flora and electricity. He glanced at the tiny dragon, who chirped softly and nuzzled his chest. "Let's see what the universe has in store," he whispered. And somewhere far beyond the horizon, hidden in the shadows of the distant sector, eyes glowed faintly, observing the human and the hatchling. The real challenge was coming, bigger than anything Ethan had imagined. But he was ready. Humans always were.